evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, you're live. Welcome to another Monday night workshop. Thank you for traveling out here in such a warm day. Was it pretty warm today?
Oh, yes.
I was trapped inside writing, so I don't
That's a
really
good thing
know.
for you.
Okay, well, good. Welcome. There's a lot of new faces that I haven't seen before, so welcome. My name is Anne Marie, and this is a Monday night workshop. We hold Monday night workshops the first Monday of every month. Topics vary depending on what I feel like writing about or current events. I try to keep them connected with the same flow and the same idea of what we do here at Omega, and keep the same philosophy, I would say. The Monday night, I want to make sure I make this mention. Monday night workshop in September right now is on hold because it falls on Labor Day and this place isn't open on Labor Day. So we're probably going to move it to the second Monday of the month, but typically we do it the first Monday of every month. In this room, this seems to be the most accessible place here. As far as our workshops are concerned, the very next Omega 1 is September 11th through the 15th. That can't be right. 11 through the 13th through the 13th. You said the 15th. It's 11 through the 13th, Mark. 11 through the 13th. It starts on the 11th. Okay, it's 11 through the 13th. It'll be the first time we're doing a 3-day format. Typically we are Thursday night, Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and we've discovered that it's kind of a little inconvenient of a schedule for people to travel Thursday night and Friday night, so we're just making it a Friday night. This will be the first time we've done it in a while. We actually used to be a 3-day program many years ago, and actually before that it was a 5-day program. It was a Wednesday night, Thursday night. That's when I went through in the early 90s. It was a Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, all day Saturday and all day Sunday. That was a major commitment. So today, a 3-day commitment is a big commitment for people. Anyway, that one, I'm excited about doing that, about condensing the program. It's been a little bit of a challenge figuring out what am I going to eliminate, because I love all the activities, but you know, there's some things that are really not as, I don't want to say not necessary, but that don't have the punch anymore like it did 20, 30 years ago. So revising it has been fun. But mostly I'm excited about the program that we're starting this Thursday. This is new, like we've never done anything before. We're calling it the Satsang program, which is a Sanskrit word. Loosely translated, it means to associate with people of like-mindedness, discussing the same concepts and ideas. I'm an avid fan of meditation, so please come on in. Avid meditation fans, so we're going to do some meditation. We're going to be journaling. There's room in the front. We won't stare at you, it's okay. And the big thing that I'm really excited about as well is we're doing 2 of those days nonverbal. So it's all, I'm calling it disconnect to connect. So disconnecting from the world out there. No one will have access to their phones or tablets or internet. Yeah, I'd love to put my kids in this one. So I wrote an article. How many people read the newsletter today? Oh, good. So only one. My husband said it was very judgmental because I was pretty bad about my kids. Well, they were mean. Went on vacation and this is them. I'm like, look up. I'm not kidding. We're in San Diego. There's surfers on the beach, and there's my son watching someone surfing. It's right in front of you. No, he's watching it on the video. I'm like, really? Are you kidding? Yeah, it was very funny. It was funny. Very funny. Just have to keep saying that. It was very funny. But in today's day and age, this is so prevalent. Doesn't leave people's hips, sometimes doesn't leave their hand. My stepdaughter goes to sleep with it in her hand and wakes up with it. Sometimes in the middle of the night I try to take it. She wakes up as soon as she feels me pulling it. I'm like, you cannot be that attached. Yeah. But I'm really, like I said, I'm really looking forward to doing this program on Thursday, just to give an opportunity for people to disconnect and to be in a place of like-minded individuals. I guess that's the best way I want to describe it. I don't want to disclose too much. As you know, in Omega, we don't really disclose much. So it's a program that I've really, as I said, have been working on for quite some time. So when we had the opportunity Previously, we really haven't because there wasn't a place where we had a hotel available. But now that there's a residence on site, we can do this. We can do programs where people can spend the night here and stuff. So that's the other thing, is that it's on site. Once you get here, you don't leave until Sunday afternoon, which is, we've got a hold of you. You can't leave. So the other thing I want to mention is over here we have our traveling gift shop. We brought this out a couple of months ago. I'm going across, sorry. So in our traveling gift shop, naturally, we have some books and things that are associated with some of the stuff we do here. I'm just going to bring out George's book. George Adair is the founder of Omega Vector, passed away about 3 years ago now. Wrote that little book. It's called The Search for Invisible Forces. Highly recommend that. And of course, there's our CDs, the music that we play, and some meditation stuff, and some previous Monday night workshops that we have available. A good idea. We would appreciate it. All money from that goes to Omega to help support us and keep us up and running. Since we haven't had our own building in a while, we've been renting here, which actually has been working out. Thank you. If I just tap it, it'll go on. Yeah, there it is, but I just lost it. Mark, I just lost the PDF. I don't know where it went to. Is it right there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have a chance to print out my workshop and my computer just died. Thankfully, I was able to get it on a PDF and transfer it over, and I think we have enough energy on this one to keep me going. So that's a good recap of Omega. Now, let me just see by show of hands how many people are here for the first time. Let's give them a hand. That's almost half the room. How many people are here for the last time? Just kidding. How many people have attended the last Omega 2 that we just did? Yeah, 2. Let's give them 2 survivors. Let's give them okay, you know, I never really do this, but I'll do this now. I'll put you guys on the spot. Why don't you give us your little to-do of how you've been doing since your training, any insights, any setbacks, blah, blah, blah.
You want to go first?
I can, but stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stand. Well, after Omega 2, I went back to work and I felt unusually, I don't know, clear, less distracted, and less apprehensive about things. It was unexpected, I think, but I've been doing okay since then.
Grateful?
Grateful, yeah, I'm grateful.
Awesome. Thank you. Still have a job?
Yeah.
Just
As of today,
checking.
yeah.
Pretty much the same here. I felt more relaxed when I experienced different behaviors from coworkers. So I'm the same person, but when I see these different attitudes or behavior, I can put myself in their shoes and then just enjoy life.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me ask you both, since you're both here. You knew that when you went into the program, we said it was harder than Omega 1, more intense, kind of like going from kindergarten to grad school. Is that what I usually use?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I don't. I actually had a better analogy. It's like a regular military boot camp as opposed to a Navy SEAL. Seriously.
Yeah, see if I use that, nobody will attend.
She's honest.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for letting me pick on you. I appreciate that. So tonight's topic is when goals make us idle. How many people in here usually like to set goals for themselves? It's a common thing. We can set goals for achieving certain specific tasks like losing weight. That's a big one. A lot of people like to go on diets and attempt to lose weight. Mark and I have been doing this. I think we started in March or April. We got involved in one of the new things to do. But this essentially you take sugar out of your diet. So I'm not eating. But you take sugar out of your diet and then of course, you know, eat specific foods and whatnot. It's been really helpful. I mean, between the two of us, we're down 60 somewhat pounds. So it's been really good. A challenge. And he's lost more weight than I have because I cheat, and I'm okay with that. But I don't reach my goal. I mean, he's already reached his goal weight and is going beyond. I haven't. I still have quite a bit to go and still drinking the Starbucks. I don't know if I'll be able to break that habit 100% of the time. But anyway, so we set little goals. And when we have those goals, like losing weight is a really good illustration to use. We set it, we sometimes can set the large goal. Okay, let's say I want to lose 35 pounds. So there's the 35 pounds. And in the first week, typically you lose maybe about 5, and that gets you excited. But then the second week, 2. And then maybe the third week, 1. And then you platform for week 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you're not cheating, you're still platforming. At that point, we start to feel discouraged. We start to feel, well, it's not going to work. So we forget that we've actually achieved part of our goal. We've lost some weight, but we're stuck on that 35 number. So we don't recognize that we've actually achieved a goal, just not the ultimate goal, but it's a goal. When we do that, we start talking ourselves out of not continuing. Have you ever had that experience? Yeah. The gyms are a great place to do this. If you ever go around when you're in a gym, right around Christmas time when they're doing all the sales, discounts for Christmas presents for other people, and then January, February, you go in, the place is packed because everyone's using their Christmas thing, and then by the end of February, it's back to normal. Everyone leaves because the same thing happens. We don't have that instant result. The biceps don't pop out as fast as I want them to, so I get discouraged. Platforming is something that happens to us a lot when we're setting goals. We plateau. We get to a place and plateau and think, now what? What more can I do? What more is necessary for me to do to move on? So we begin to get stagnant. And this is where getting idle comes into play. When we get stagnant, we get comfortable. We get, discouraged or disinterested. Our mind focuses on something else, and then there's a lack of movement, which is what really boils down to a lack of movement. Have you ever had the experience of being on a 5-hour flight or a very long flight, and when you get off the airplane, are you excited or exhausted? Exhausted. Most people are exhausted. The first thing you want to do is sit down. You've been sitting for 5 hours, but the first thing you want to do is sit down because you haven't done anything. Your body has been stagnant for 5 hours. That's a really simple illustration of how stagnation can affect us very quickly in that short time. Relatively speaking, 5 hours is short. In that short time, your body became stagnant and did not want to move. You needed more rest for your physical body. So it's easy to see goals, how they affect us. Center button? How they affect us.
Are you hitting the side button?
Center button? I said center.
No, the one to the side.
This one?
Yeah, hit it. There you go.
There we go, thank you. Look, the omega vector has arrived. When goals make you idle. So it's easy for us to feel complacent. I love this little line right here by Zig Ziglar. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. That really shows our destiny. It's not the goal itself, but what do we do after we achieve our goals. Now, history is filled with people who achieved goals, tremendous goals, really visible goals. The United States of America is a goal of all the founding fathers. They wanted to create a country that was free from tyranny or from England. So we are the result of several people's goals. We're living a land in several people's goals. How many people own a vehicle? Goal. How many people own a house? A goal. How many people have a job? A goal. All of those are examples of goals that you have achieved. But most of us we're used to that, so we don't see that we've achieved a goal. Getting up in the morning is a goal. I mean, you end up not sleeping anymore, so you're waking. Well, those of us who actually do get up when the alarm goes off, the snooze is just a killer. I mean, whoever invented that is just tedious. So, I went to the definition, I went to Webster's to define what goals are, and this actually made me laugh. So the very first definition, the terminal point of a race. The word terminal just cracked me up. I would have never put terminal with goal, but honestly, when you're done with the race, it's over. That's the end. So I guess that would be considered terminal. And then, of course, goals are places when you're playing games with kids. There's the safety zone, especially when you're playing tag. You have that safety zone. An end towards which effort is made. So we're setting and aiming towards direction on the horizon. And of course, the goals that are in sports. Sports are an easy topic to talk about goals. Everybody understands goals when you're talking about sports, or sports when you're talking about goals. Now, when it comes to the sports arena, because I'm going to go on this, it's such an easy thing to understand. You don't have to be an athlete to understand this. I want my neck. Okay, there we go. So you don't have to be an athlete to understand this. When we have a certain goal, here's a guy crossing the finish line. Now there are certain things, like the first definition said the terminal end of the race. So here we have it. He's reached the terminal point of the race being over. So here's this gentleman, victory, excited, enthusiastic. He's accomplished his goal, feels wonderful. Now we don't know how the people are behind him, how they feel. Even if it's a person that's a fraction of a second behind him, they still don't win the race. So one winner, thousands of losers. That one event can affect everyone, obviously does affect everyone in the race. But in this instance, we have an individual who's in a race. Most races are individual events, so they're individual goals as well. The different types of races there are, of course, you have swimming. We can call that an individual race. Marathon, skiing, CrossFit, American Ninja, that's something I just have been, have you ever seen those? It just inspires me and then depresses me because you're like, I could never do that. But it's amazing how it's a whole new way of doing things. I watched CrossFit games the other day. I'm not a fan of CrossFit, been physically active most of my life, worked out most of my life. CrossFit seems very harmful to me. I think you can injure yourself quite quickly if not done. Anyway, you know, they had games. There's actually competitions with the CrossFit. And one of the activities, the gentlemen are sitting on a chair and they're reaching back to touch the ground and then reaching all the way back up and touch their toes. Like it's a backward and then, yeah, insane. Why would you do that? Flexibility, I guess? I don't know, but really good abs. So truth be told, I was really watching it for a different reason. So they are really fit. Anyway, you have individual athletes. Now, when you have this individual athlete, he's feeling the excitement, exuberation of achieving his goal in this athletic arena right here. As I said, there's also different types of athletes that we have, but let's look at him first. We see this and we think victory. But what we don't see are all the qualifying races he had to do before he got to this point. So he must have had maybe 2, 3, 4 different marathons he had to race in order to get to this. I know several people who've been in the Ironman. One particular person had never done a marathon before in his life, insane, wants to do the Ironman, and then this other person had been practicing and winning races along the way. How did they do? How do you think the man who never was in a marathon did? He didn't even complete it. It ended. He didn't even complete it. The second gentleman that did it, he didn't complete it, but it was mostly because of his age. He really shouldn't have been in that age group. He should have been an older one. So he actually got asked to stop because he wouldn't have made the timing at the end. So Ironmans are fantastic races, but we don't recognize all the little qualifying races that this gentleman got to be here. Now, the other people in this race, let's say there's 150 other people. That's 150 other people that did qualifying races. So just because you managed to succeed in a qualifying race doesn't guarantee that you're going to succeed here, doesn't. No, it's just another event, which is really sad to say, but it really is just another event. Then we have baseball. Got to put Jeets up here. So Derek Jeter's representing our baseball. So baseball, this is a team effort. There are times when we have sporting events where the team is involved. So it's not so much my personal goal, but the whole team is representing our goal. We're all reaching for the same thing. So in a baseball game, everyone's trying to win the game. So this is a picture of Derek Jeter about to hit a grand slam. Anybody knows what a grand slam is? So there's 3 people on base already, and he hits a home run. 4 people score. Phenomenal. It's a really good, it's just a home run, but you got 3 other people on bases, so it means more. So you can get a grand slam, but it doesn't guarantee that your team wins the game, does it? No. So here's the sad thing. There are people who get grand slams, and they don't win. So they have a small victory, but the team doesn't win. How do you think that affects them? Why bother? If the team's not winning, I'm just going to be tagging. I know several baseball players, one of them's a pretty good friend of mine. When his contract was released, he was getting offers from other teams, and he refused to go to certain ones that had a losing record. I don't want to take my time going to a city that's not going to win. That was his focus, and I understand he won the world championship one year, so he wants to feel that again. So he was very picky on who he was going to go to. Obviously, the teams who were that winning offered more money to try to get you there, but he didn't want to do that. It wasn't about the money, it was about victory for him. So here we have a good example. We can have a win. A baseball player, first of all, to get into the major leagues is an unbelievable task in itself. Spend many years in the farm league. Then you could be brought up and you could be sent back down. You could be brought up, you could be sent back down. You could spend your entire career in the farm leagues. Most people don't realize that. There are thousands of players in farm leagues that never reach the actual major league. But when you finally get up there, goal, you reach a goal, but you're the newbie, aren't you? So now you have to start all over again. So getting into the farm leagues is one goal. Then when you get into the NBA, the majors, then you have another goal. Now it's to actually succeed. The beautiful thing I love about Derek Jeter is he was brought up at the age of 19 years old. He stepped onto the field. 19 years old, stepped onto the field as a Yankee, as a second baseman, never left until he finally retired. That is a very successful baseball player. Very few people have that legend. Very few people have that legend with him. So we can look and say, that's a successful man. Now I'm aware of all the rumors about him, philandering and whatnot. I get that, understand that, because that's what happens sometimes when we reach success. It can go to our head, and we end up not really staying on the path. But I refuse to believe it because Derek Jeter is a gentleman. And I do love that what happens is when people finish and accomplish their goals, what do they do with their life then? That's the question. When you accomplish your goal, what do you do? If you do nothing, you remain idle. If you choose another goal, then you're set in motion again, so movement happens. But how do we choose what kind of goal? I mean, this is fantastic. You get to a major league, you have an incredible record like him, what do you do now? Most guys go to broadcasting. You don't want to be a broadcaster. So what do? I know what he's done, but I'm not going to announce it. But you have to find something else to do in order to continue on. Otherwise, you will become idle. So I was thinking, I forgot to mention there's the tennis and the golf and yoga competitions, all of those come into play. And of course, you have to continue growing with your victories. So a victory can be a small victory or a large victory. But once you achieve it, what do you do? So here's what I want to do. I want to make sure you have somebody to talk to, so make sure you buddy up with another person, and I want you to talk to this individual about the last victory you had. What was entailed to get there, and what did you do after you achieved your victory? So go ahead and have a conversation.
All right, if I can have your attention.
You're still going to talk to your buddy. I wanted you to talk about a goal that you succeeded at. Now, I want you to talk about the last goal you attempted and you didn't succeed, and what led up to that, and then what did you do after that occurred? Go ahead. Perfect. May I have your attention, please? All right, you've had an opportunity to talk to your buddy about goals that you've achieved and what you've done after that, and goals that you weren't able to achieve and how that affected you as well. There's one other dynamic that can happen. We can achieve a goal, but it doesn't turn out the way that we thought it was going to. So we end up with a disappointment rather than an excitement. So we can set a goal, and when we get there, we think, what happened? This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Now I'm an avid risk taker. I love taking risks. About 10 years ago, I went on the first kayaking trip that I've ever been on to kayak with killer whales. Because, why not? I had run into a friend of mine in Starbucks one time, and he had talked about how he had actually gone scuba diving with killer whales, and I'm just not that risky. Sorry, no thank you. But I've always had a fear of killer whales. Don't know why, but always had a fear of killer whales when I was growing up. I grew up on Long Island, so when Jaws came out, that was it. I was no longer in the water. Killer whales look like a shark. I don't care how many times you tell me it's a whale, fin, teeth, shark. That's how I see it. So I decided I want to try to conquer this. I'm going to go kayak with the killer whales. So kayaking, you're in the water, on top of the water. It's not like there's a big distance. You're right. So When we get there, the guide says, oh, by the way, when the killer whales approach, you gotta take your paddles out because otherwise they think you're splashing and wanna play and they'll come and play with you. Tip, whatever, you know, and they spend lots of time teaching us what happens when the kayak tips, and if it tips and there's a whale there, what do you do? I think pass out, but you know, there are those things you're supposed to do. Anyway, 3 days go by. I go on this, I go with a company that guarantees if you do not see killer whales, they will fly you up the next year to ensure that you will see killer whales. So I figured, hey, this is good. We're definitely going to see the killer whales. Now, in Vancouver, it was off the islands of Vancouver. The way the island is, there's like a little bit of a shelf 10 feet from the shore, and then it drops down. So the whale can literally come 10 feet to the shoreline. And standing on the shore, they're beautiful, and I've seen them breach right in front of us, 20, 30 feet out. Beautiful. I'm on the shore, not in the water with them. So long story short, one day, it was one of those Alfred Hitchcock kind of days where it was gray, misty weather, and the water was placid but gray. I really felt like I was in a black and white film. It was very strange. And we get on the radio, oh, there's whales coming up, whales coming up. So the guide turns to us and say, well, do you want to have breakfast and watch them pass, or do you want to go on the boats? Before he's done speaking, we're all running down to the kayaks, jumping into the boats. Now, my best friend was with me. She's shorter than me. That's why she was my best friend. I'm taller than someone. Anyway, so if you're in a kayak, those of you who've ever sat in a double kayak, the back has pedals which monitor the rudder. Thank you. So because she was shorter than me, she couldn't reach the pedals. So we did a lot of circles for a while until she kind of sank down and kind of reached where they were, but not very athletic. So I struggled with her for a couple of days, and well, as the whales are coming, I'm like, oh, dang it, Susan's gonna be in the back. I don't care. Jump in and off we go. And now she has already made many comments about, oh, wouldn't it be great if we're all by ourselves and the whales come? I'm like, no, go in another boat if you want to do that. So here we are in the water. Sure enough, I see the whales coming down in a very slow, almost like a slow motion. They were just like up and down, and very peaceful. And I thought, oh, those aren't harmful. They look okay. And then we keep going in that direction. I'm like, Susan, stop the boat. Susan, stop, turn the pedal, turn. And we just keep drifting off. So now we're approaching the whales, which they tell you not to do. The whales feel threatened if you approach them. And we are approaching this family of whales. And on a side note, one of the beautiful things, as the mom went down, the baby popped up. It was about 6 foot. I mean, it must have just been born. It was beautiful. So this big, huge baby pops up right in front of me when it did that. That was pretty. But anyway, so we're approaching the whales. Now I'm starting to panic. Now my friends, I've always taken them with me on risks that I've done, and they've never seen me fearful. Because I'm not. I'm fearful. Let's go! Except for this time. I start shaking. I'm really afraid. I start hyperventilating. Apparently I said I was going to get out of the boat and swim for shore. I don't remember saying it, but apparently I did. So I'm shaking and I'm hyperventilating, and all I could do is hang on to my camera, and I'm just looking, I'm not even looking at the whales anymore because they're coming directly, we're going towards them and they're coming, so we're going to hit them if something does. There's no brake in a kayak, and we can't put the paddles in because they'll come. So I'm panicking now, catastrophizing. But I think, okay, we can do this, I'm hanging on, and I'm hanging on, and I'm hanging on. And everything's going black. And I'm thinking, I am gonna pass out right now, I know it. I'm gonna pass out. So just as I see everything go black, that's when the baby popped up in front of me, and I went, oh, how cool. And that kind of got me out of being afraid. And then and I realized they were passing us, and they adjusted instead of, oh, good. So as they pass, now I'm feeling good, yay, I get to see the whales, I'm conquering my fear. And as they pass us, I look over and there's the rest of our group. We are all by ourselves, about 50 yards, all by ourselves. As I look over there, and I go to turn to yell at Susan for us being all by ourselves, I see a 7-foot fin streaming as fast as it can directly to us. 7 feet. You're in the kayak, you're looking up at the top of the fin. So it was the largest whale out there. after this event unfolded, they told me what actually happened. But anyway, so this whale is headed right, I mean, he is coming so fast, the waves are breaking against his fin, and his fin doesn't go down. He's like right towards us. I mean, there's no way that you cannot mistake that this shark is coming. That's what I see in my head, shark, fin shark, gray shark. So it's coming towards us, and now I'm freaking out. I put the paddle in the water and I start backpedaling as fast as I can. She's yelling at me to take the paddle out. The guides over there realize, and I hear someone go, explanation, Anne-Marie's by herself. Calm down, stay calm. And like they're trying to tell me to be calm as they're far away and the thing is coming right towards us. So I'm backpedaling, I drop my paddle. Hands in the water. I mean, I really did everything. I was so very funny, apparently. Thankfully, nobody had video of it. So eventually, what happened is this whale came right to the tip of the kayak and stopped. Now, because I was in so much fear, all I was looking at was the tip of the fin. I didn't look at the whale. It was the fin. Susan is behind me going, look how beautiful, it's looking at us. I mean, I don't care. It's fin, shark, fin. I'm wrapped up in my own fear. And this thing came right to us and sat there. And then he went down below and came out on the other side. And I went, yeah, I'm really enjoying this trip so much. When all was said and done, he left. We get out on the shore and the guides say, oh yeah, that's one of the lone orca whales. He likes to startle people. So apparently this whale had a personality of startling kayakers. He would go down below and then pop up, hi! And because he had such a large fin, he was very intimidating. So he was one of the largest whales out there. So they all thought it was very funny. I didn't. So at the end of the trip, I did not conquer my fear. So I went through this whole process. I achieved a goal. I'm in a kayak, there's the whale, and I'm still afraid of orcas. I went back 2 more years to try to conquer this fear. I couldn't. I didn't. I'm still afraid of orcas. Had a great experience the second time. Nobody left me alone. So I was with other people. Beautiful. We actually had a super pod come by where 8 of the 10 pods that were up there united, and for 45 minutes we just sat and watched them go. We're in the water. We sat and watched them cross us, go underneath us. It was really quite amazing. But I felt good because I was with other people, but I'm still afraid of orcas. I know this sounds odd, but I can't go to SeaWorld. I don't want to. I don't, well, first of all, for my own judgment of entrapping seal animals. But anyway, I don't want to be at a wall where there's a whale there. I don't think I would survive. I don't know. Anyway, so that's a good example of when you go for a goal and you don't achieve it. You don't achieve what you think you're going to achieve. So, how did that make me feel? Well, I was depressed. I was first angry, all the money that I spent to go do this. Angry at my best friend because she put us in that little place to have this stupid whale come to us. And then angry because I wasn't achieving what I went out to do. So I lost sight that it was actually a goal. Did I go? Yeah. Did I see whales? Yeah, that was my intention. But I didn't overcome my fear, which was the ultimate goal. So that's what ends up robbing us from having a good experience. We have the ultimate goal, we have the little victories, but if we don't reach that ultimate goal, we don't experience any joy. I could have had joy that I was in a kayak, could have had joy that there was whales right there, didn't. Because my ultimate goal was not achieved. Now sometimes we set ultimate goals that are not achievable. That only leads us to letdown and depression. We have this vision of, oh, I want to live in Sedona. That's a beautiful goal, but if I'm working at Starbucks, that's not happening unless I win the lottery. So that sometimes that's an unachievable goal. We can set goals that we can't reach. Sometimes that's helpful because it makes us expand. But we have to remember we may not reach the ultimate goal, but the little goals is what enhances my life. It's those little goals that make me feel qualified. They make me feel excited. They make me feel striving to continue on. If I didn't have little goals in my life, I wouldn't want to continue on. And this is what depressed people end up feeling because they're no longer engaged in life. what's the point? What's the point of continuing on? Have another example. Never got married, didn't want to get married my entire life. Don't want to get married. Can't have kids, but have lots of foster kids. But I mean, that was my rule, didn't want to get married. Then I meet my husband. Well, he wasn't my husband when I met him, but I met him. He, same goal, not get married. So hey, we're good to go. Two people who don't want to get married. A year later, we're married. So I remember standing at the altar, doing my vows, and once we're pronounced man and wife, walking down the aisle, and then of course, those of you who remember getting married, you don't eat because you're so busy saying hello and talking to everybody, and before you know it, the food's gone, and nobody saved you a plate because they're busy eating, whatever. But I remember driving home thinking, nothing's changed. I mean, it's still me and Mark. I mean, nothing's changed. I have a ring on my finger, but nothing changed. So I had this expectation that when I got married, I'd be feeling something different. I didn't. It was the same. So it really was a little unsettling to me. I really thought I was going to have an awareness of, I've reached the married stage. And it's not. I mean, I've been in relationships before, stayed with them for a long time. It feels the same thing. It's just another relationship, except it's Mr. and Mrs. now. So nothing changed on that. Was it a letdown? A little bit. It probably would have been worse if we didn't go to Maui, because I'm thinking maybe that's why the honeymoons are there. So you really feel like something happened, something different happened for you. But anyway, that can happen to us. We have a letdown. When we have an expectation that something's going to occur and it doesn't, then it's a little bit of a letdown. So that's one of the things that can rob us from continuing on feeling this excitement, but also from, got to type in the password, also from moving forward. My password was incorrect. Can you come put the password in?
It's right on the keyboard there.
Is it capital? Excuse me, technology, thank you. So, some people adopt the philosophy, oh well, it wasn't in the cards, or we'll get them next time. That's what they think of. Some people do that, and some people don't. As a matter of fact, on sports teams, one of the big things they have are sports psychologists now. I mean, actually that started in the 1920s, but it's really been prevalent now. And the sports psychologist is not so much on biometrics and the actual physiology, but they work with psychology as well. I think it's brilliant that the Cardinals just hired a female coach. Not just because she's the female coach, she's got a doctorate in psychology, in sports psychology. I think that's phenomenal. To be able to have a coach who has the understanding of the mind and how setbacks can affect your performance. For example, you hit a grand slam and your team still loses. That's got to be something really to chew on that. That's a great achievement, and yet you still lose. That really can cause a setback. There's many examples throughout history of individuals who, once they achieve their goals, whether it's because they didn't get what they thought they were going to get, or success went to their head, and they went in a different venue. As a matter of fact, we don't have to leave it with athletes. You can look at Hollywood or the music industry. Same thing. Somebody achieves their goal, and then they find themselves in trouble with the law. I couldn't resist. I had to do this one. O.J. Simpson. Now, I asked my husband this question. Most people don't know this. What is O.J. Simpson famous for? Oh, the Heisman Trophy? That was good. But he's actually famous for something else. A record that still exists today. The most amount of yards, passing yards, or rushing yards, the most amount of rushing yards in one season. He still holds that record, but most people don't know that. You know why? That's the man who murdered Nicole Simpson and her friend, Ron Goldman. That's what we remember. We remember the catastrophe, but we don't remember the victory. He played for the Buffalo Bills, great player, but we don't remember that. We remember this mugshot is we remember. We remember the Bronco, the 3-mile-an-hour Bronco chase down the freeway. We remember things like that. So what happened to him? Here's a great athlete, Hall of Famer, in the Pro Bowl Hall of Fame, has a record that still stands today, and he's in prison now. What happened to him? By all standards, we would say, here's a gentleman that reached his goal. He was successful, but he's in jail. to this day, I love the Vegas judge. Anybody know about what she did? When he got caught robbing and stealing and in somebody's room, she gave him a sentence of 35 years and said, I'm going to give you the sentence you should have got the last time you were in front of a judge. I don't think you technically can say that, but she did. She was like, in your face, you're going to jail for 35 years. All right, here's another one. Marilyn Monroe. Beautiful woman, beautiful smile and demeanor, ends up having drug issues, and the woman ends up being dead, mysteriously. Nobody really knows what actually happened to her. But here's a woman who wanted to be an actress, wanted for the fame, got there, and then once she reached the fame, maybe it was too much for her, and she started downhill, had a series of relationships that were not so good, ended up with drug abuse, and of course, naturally, an unsolved death for her. Got another one right here. Everybody remember John Belushi, the Blues Brothers? Here's a guy, another wants to be an actor, wants to be a comedian. Yay! And what does he end up doing? Drugs. And ends up dying, overdose. I didn't get this, but Robin Williams I put up there too. The pressure of success led him to depression and suicide. Another very sad situation. Here we have another one, a singer, Whitney Houston. She really wanted to be a singer. A beautiful voice. To this day, whenever I play the video of her singing the national anthem, I still cry because it was so incredible. I remember when she did it, I sat there and thought, holy mackerel, that was the best rendition of the American anthem, national anthem that I've ever heard. She had such an incredible voice. And what happened? Drugs led her to a decline. I mean, I know there was a show on TV with Following the Houstons or something like that. And then, of course, you know, recently, Bobby Christina, dead in an abusive relationship, almost followed straight, same suit as her mother. I couldn't resist him either. Everyone know who this is? Do you recognize him? Michael Jackson. This is what he used to look like. He's really cute. So here's Michael Jackson. Now, we can kind of be on the fence about this. Was it really Michael's desire to be famous or his father's? Was it really Michael's desire or his brother's? But they knew that this kid had talent, so he got pushed into a venue. He may not have wanted it, don't know. But he was very talented at it and excelled at it, so naturally he ended up doing it. And then I had to do the progression. I had to because this is just so funny. So here we go. That's his first release. Beautiful picture. Obviously the remodeling starts happening there. Why? Because he hasn't reached his goal in his head now. He feels, he doesn't feel complete. He doesn't feel like he's achieving things. Everybody wants him. Has no friend, no real friend. Brothers are taking advantage and using blah, blah, blah. So here we go from Thriller. That was another really good one. Then we go to Bad. Does that look like the little kid anymore? Major changes. And then, you know, that's the saddest one. Poor guy. I mean, you look at him and you think, he wasn't even all there. Now, I have a personal story about him. My brother is an actor, and he knows somebody who was a reporter who very shortly before Michael Jackson was killed, died. Well, he was killed, it was murder. But before he died, he was in Manhattan. And the reporter that my brother knows, was called to Michael Jackson's suite. So he goes into the hotel, up on the floor, there's nobody else on the floor. Michael Jackson rents the whole floor out. So he gets up there, there's a bunch of security guys, and the reporter says, and a very slimy assistant, very clearly that the man was taking advantage of Jackson. So he walks in the room, and it's a very large, vacant suite, because Michael Jackson had a tendency to clear out all the furniture and bring his own. So he had little odds and ends of things, and there's Jackson sitting in a very large armchair, wing-back armchair, looking very disheveled and very emaciated. So the reporter was a little confused on why he was being there. He thought he was going to get a special interview and everything, so he sits down, and Jackson, he says, is in and out. You could tell he's drugged, so he's not really there, but he's there. And so the reporter just does what he does. He asks him questions, and you know what's happening, and Michael Jackson tells him little things. But then Michael would start telling stories that didn't make sense. And you know, you could tell he wasn't cognitively making connections. And then he would say, well, you know, you really have to come and visit me again. I really miss this. And so the reporter got called several times, and then he realized Michael didn't have any friends. Like, he was being asked to come to talk to him. It wasn't about being reporting. It was so he had someone to talk to. And he felt really sad. And he really felt sad for that this poor guy, as rich and famous and wealthy as he is, was the loneliest man he'd ever met. So to me, when my brother told me that story, I felt really bad. I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine Michael Jackson is trying to pay a reporter to be his friend? And then he ends up, of course, naturally dying at the hands of, quote, another friend. But the reporter said that there was also something very inspiring. There were times where he did see him and he wasn't drug-induced, and he had a presence about himself that really was quite magnetic. And people would never say no to him. It's Michael Jackson, whatever you want. And they never said no. That's why they said that in his autopsy, or when they did the investigation of the house, they found 25, 30 bottles of prescriptions under different people's names, because people would just go fill out a prescription and bring him the drugs. Because it's Michael Jackson. You don't say no to Michael Jackson. So sometimes money and power can derail us from our goal. So eventually, he wanted to be the king of pop. Remember when he announced himself he was the king of pop? Well, he really was. He reinvented the music industry. He did a wonderful job. Unfortunately, most of us won't remember that. We'll remember this. We'll remember all of the sexual allegations that take place. We'll remember his murder. But we won't remember so much the great contribution he made to the music industry. So again, when we reach our goals, we may not feel successful. We may not get that thing that we're striving for. So perhaps our goals are misaligned with us. That's something to consider. Are the goals that you have in your life what you want, or what your mom or your dad wants, or your spouse wants? So we have to consider when we choose our goals, who are we choosing the goals for? Sometimes it's difficult for us to choose goals for ourselves because it's going to impact the people in our lives. We have to negotiate around certain arenas. So when we choose goals, sometimes it's not reaching the goal is probably the best thing to do for the whole, for the group, for a family. Maybe me moving to Tibet is not the best thing for my husband and the kids. I probably should stay raising them. I don't want to be in Tibet anyway, it's too cold. So, as I said, we can reach our goals, and it may not give us what we're desiring. Let's see what my next one is here. So, I want to talk to you for a moment about retirement. Anybody in here know anybody who's retired? No, a couple of you. All right. Are the people that you know, or you yourself, are you happy in retirement?
So far.
So far?
He just started.
Okay. Usually when we're just starting this is like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I put all the money in for, all the time, all the effort. This is what I got. How long can you sit on a beach watching the sunset? Not very long. It gets old pretty fast. So you sit there, you drink your Mai Tais, unless you start becoming an alcoholic, then you're happy, because, hey, you get to do this. But most of the time, this doesn't last very long. 2, 3 months, maybe 4, 5, 6. But by 6 months, a lot of people are disillusioned with retirement. I've spent a lot of time talking, not a lot, but I spent some time talking to people who have reached retirement. And one of the things that they discover is they miss working. The thing they complained about the whole time, I can't wait to retire, can't wait to retire, gosh, I miss being at work. So it's very odd. And I'll ask them, why do you think that is? Why do you think you miss being at work when what your goal was to retire? Why are you missing the thing you got yourself free from? Most of them have no idea. There was one gentleman that I do remember I had a conversation with, and he said that he missed the success of succeeding. Naturally, I had to ask him what he meant by that, but he meant the success of succeeding. So he missed the small victories, the small hurdles he had to overcome, the small challenges. He missed that. He missed being able to accomplish something. He said to me one morning, there's only so much golf you can play. How many times? 1 round of golf, 2 rounds, that's it, in a day. What do you do for the rest of the day? Or, you're dragging along. Usually you don't play 2 rounds, but 1 round of golf. So what he did was, he was missing those little minor victories. That's what happens in our regular life. We have those little minor victories. And in retirement, he didn't. He had the freedom to choose whatever he wanted, and he missed the structure, was one of the things. So I had a conversation with him, and I said, I mentioned volunteering. Well, now that you're retired, why don't you just spend some time volunteering? there's soup kitchens or, hospice, or just go volunteer. And he was like, well, yeah, but I knew his heart wasn't into it. So of course, naturally, my first judgmental thought was, this rich, selfish man, he misses the kill. That's what he wants, because he was very successful. But then as we talked, the more I got to know him, I realized he had never set any other goal except for work. Never got married, never had kids. He never set a goal except for work. He actually lived in the same apartment that he had for 25 years. Didn't even expand his, probably one of the reasons why he had tons of money. He never really took those big risks because it was all about work. That was his goal. So that was the thing that we ended up discussing, was adaptation. Well, now that you've reached retirement, now that you've been playing the golf, what else can you do? Maybe become a golf instructor. Or maybe teach someone else how to do the business that you did. Be a mentor. Like, those were options to do. That seemed a bit more attractive to him because he could get back into the workforce, being the mentor, or even going into coaching. I'm like, there you go, that's an option, something to pass on your knowledge. Feeling useful is what he was missing. In retirement, he didn't feel useful. So that's a beautiful illustration of reaching a goal and not being satisfied. I know several other people who have retired. These are wealthy people, and what they do is they travel around the planet. They go to Africa, they go to India, they go to Ireland. They're always going to the Galapagos Islands with the turtles. I mean, they're always bouncing from here to there. They're spending tons of money. But every time I see them, all they do is talk about the next adventure. Oh, that's the next adventure. Okay, that's great, goal setting, but they didn't seem complete. They were still not happy. They complained about what just happened, or how this didn't work, or how that didn't work. So again, it's a series of goal settings that really were just trying to fulfill them. And I don't think that's what they were really searching for, this one couple in particular. They never really talked about traveling, but they just didn't know what else to do. So let's just go travel. So they kind of substituted a goal for rather than something they really wanted to do. Now they have, this couple I'm thinking of has children and grandchildren, so then they focused on the grandchildren, and they became their goal, taking care of the grandchildren, sending them to school, giving them, spoiling them, and whatnot, which probably much to the chagrin of their children, because the grandchildren were just being spoiled. So what it seems like, the way to prevent me from being idle in my goal would be timing and adaptation. Now I didn't talk to you about timing, but so I'll back up for a second. Timing. When you have the athlete who runs the race, and he is, I thought you said that we turned it off. There we go. The athlete who runs the race achieves his goal. So physically, let's say, here I do an Ironman. At the end of the Ironman, I collapse because I'm exhausted. My body literally needs time to recoup. I can't just get up and go run another race. I mean, even if it's just 5 seconds of relaxation, but most of us need, how long do you need after a marathon?
2 weeks.
About 2 weeks. So is that a typical thing, or is it really personal? 2 to 3 weeks?
Kind of, I mean, some people get back faster, but I think they're crazy.
So about 2-3 weeks, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks. That's a physical recoup from a marathon. You need 2 to 3 weeks. If you go back within 1 week, you can cause physical damage to yourself. If you wait 4, 5, 6 weeks, is it harder to start back up again? Oh, you bet. So here's what happens with the timing. We have to discover how long it takes for me to go to the next goal. Physical, it's easy because you understand the aches. But what about those emotional goals or the mental goals? That's less easy to identify the timing. Oh man, I really worked hard to get this project done and I finally got it done and whew, I need to take a break. And we play video games or solitaire. Or we mindlessly watch TV for hours. You know, sometimes that's beneficial. It gets us disengaged. There's times where I'll just put the TV on because I need not to think. So I just focus, or not focus, and just veg. That's necessary, but do that too long, very detrimental. I actually did an experiment about 15 years ago. I did this. I wanted to see the effects of the television on individuals because I'd read a report about people, poverty, especially individuals who were on welfare in New York City and the projects, on how they really don't have much money, but everyone has a TV, and they all have cable. And the TV's on 24 hours a day. And I thought, that can't be healthy. First of all, you know, radiation or whatever, but it can't be healthy to have that constant chatter going on. So I did this experiment. I wanted to see how it would affect somebody if you sat in front of a TV for a weekend. So on Friday night, got home from work, turned the TV on, never turned it off. Slept on the couch in front of the TV. Made my meals fast food stuffy things so that it would always be there. I mean, I tried to emulate as much as possible someone who watched TV all the time. But before I did this, I had a friend of mine promise me that on Sunday afternoon he would take me out of the house. No matter what I did, get me out of the house. Do not let me stay there. I sat in front of that TV, slept in front of that TV, woke up in the middle of the night. I found myself watching shows I had no desire or interest in before I started this experiment, but then I'm trying to find the sequence. All right, that just played, so what's the next episode? And in goofy shows that I would never be interested in. I found myself spending a lot of time channel surfing. And that was intriguing, like, you know, oh, there's 2 seconds there, there's 4 seconds there, but the channel surfing, sometimes I was channel surfing and I really wasn't watching. It was just flip, 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 because nothing was on. I woke up in the middle of the night to Cher doing one of her infomercials. That was kind of fun. And then, so there were some things that were fascinating, but overall, as the weekend progressed, I felt miserable. I felt like I was coming down with a cold, I had no energy, didn't want to do anything. Sure enough, Sunday afternoon when my friend came to get me, I didn't want to leave the house. I kicked and screamed. I refused to change my clothes. He literally picked me up, carried me out the front door and threw me in his car because I did not want to go, barefoot and everything. I didn't want to go. And it was just driving me around. I actually almost started to panic. I want to go back. I want to go back. I don't want to be out here. I want to go back. I mean, and really, it was quite amazing. I was completely different. And so it took him about an hour before I finally settled down. And then we got out, we walked a little bit, because I knew the walking would be very helpful for me as well. When I got back home, we left the TV on. So when I walked back in the house, I was like, ah! I ran over and turned that thing off, and I don't think I turned it back on for another 6 months. It was an incredible awareness in what other people go through. But I also thought, this is what it's like when people don't achieve goals, when they don't do anything. This is what it's like to be idle, when you're just complacent. You just sit there and you're stagnant. Your energy drops. I had no creativity, no desire to do anything, didn't answer the phone. People would be calling me, don't even want to look at it.